Hey, welcome to the channel. Welcome to All Things All. And if you're wondering who All is, that is me. Those are my initials, but you can call me Am. And we're gonna talk about all of it on the All Talk. Now, disclaimer, warning, you've been warned and advised that if you get offended easily by other people's opinions that aren't the same as yours, or you're not open-minded to hear the other side of the conversation, maybe you shouldn't watch this video. Because I'm going to say what's on my mind without a filter. So if that bothers you, bye. Why did I want to start a podcast / a talk? Well, my husband. He's the big factor in all of this. I am constantly talking to him about things that are on my mind, to the point he has definitely suggested and encouraged me to create the All Talk. So you can blame him for this. Now, the first topic and the first episode of this show is going to be PCOS, or what's now called PMOS. So before we get into it, just a clarification, I am not a medical professional. This is my story. It's my journey, my perspective, what I went through, what I experienced. Whoever's watching and whoever's going through this, you're not alone. And it's probably more common than what you realize and think. Now let's dive right in. I got my notes ready. Grab a cup of tea, because this is probably gonna be a long one. Okay? PCOS, what does that stand for? That stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. But now, it has recently been changed. From what I am seeing all around, and according to Mayo Clinic, it is now PMOS, polyendocrine metabolic ovarian syndrome. Now, what is that? Mayo Clinic's definition is that PMOS is a hormone health issue that starts to show in women when they're able to give birth, have kids. So it literally can start when you first get a menstrual cycle. If you have PMOS, may not have periods that are very often. You have male pattern hair growth. It happens when you have too much of a certain group of hormones called androgens in your body. And PMOS is driven by the effects of androgen and changes in how your body uses the hormone called insulin, which controls blood sugar. Now, PMOS can come with some complications, because why wouldn't it? Some complications can be infertility, pregnancy complication, metabolic complications, because it is a metabolic syndrome. So that means we gain weight and our body doesn't want to let go of it, which leads to dealing with obesity. We can also lead to type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea, mental health issues like depression and anxiety, even uterine and ovarian cancer. Not a very fun topic, is it? Why am I talking about this for my very first episode? Well, I was diagnosed with this. And it took a while to get diagnosed with it. I have opinions. My journey has been one of frustration and one of moments and one of just pure anger. So I hope anybody else who's feeling this way knows they're not alone. I was there. I've only recently gotten better at accepting it, but at the beginning was it was challenging. And that's not even the right word, it's the only word that's currently coming to my mind. It was a struggle in many aspects. Not only physically, but it was mental and emotional. It was not what I wanted to hear. But looking back, I'm grateful they finally figured out what I was going through. Now, what do you mean by finally figured out what you were going through? Oh, let me tell you. It starts all the way back to when I was 12 years old. Now, if you're squeamish about what just is normal and natural for a woman, I'm giving you time to leave. Bye. All right. For those who stayed, a menstrual cycle, Shark Week, was painful. And when I mean painful, doctors would tell me, Tyler, Tylenol. They told my mom, give her Tylenol. Guess what? Tylenol is like drinking water. Agua. It does nothing to help the pain. I was the type that had to take like 600, 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, Advil, naproxen, all the bigger drugs, not Tylenol. Tylenol did nothing. There were certain days I was like, why even buy Tylenol? Who made this? I need something stronger. I was told
it's normal. You get used to it.
I don't think somebody being in that much pain should just get used to it. We normally don't tell people for other conditions to just get used to it, but when it comes to the whole menstrual cycle, just get used to the pain. There's something wrong with that, in my opinion. My pains were so bad and so crippling to the point that my dad occasionally thought he would have to take me to the emergency room. And this happened on more than just one occasion. It was so bad, sometimes I couldn't even walk, that the idea of walking was exhausting. But yet I had to function. I had to go to school. I had to go to work. I had to go places. I had errands to run. I had a life to live. One of the worst pains I experienced while I was in college, my best friend can attest to this because she practically had to help carry me to my next class. I remember crying in her arms from the pain and wondering how on earth am I going to survive the rest of my classes, because we paid for them. We paid for these college classes, so we gotta attend these college classes. I got so used to the pain being so bad that when I was 23, I experienced something that I never want to experience again in my entire life. And what is that thing, you may ask? It was, drumroll please, an ovarian torsion. Yes. What is an ovarian torsion? Well, women have ovaries that, release an egg that goes into fallopian tube and waits to get fertilized. Okay, well, those ovaries, one of mine decided to do the Macarena, the salsa, the tango, and decided to flip on me. Yes, you heard me right. My ovary decided to go into a knot and my fallopian tube as well. That pain was around the same level as some of my menstrual cycle pains. When it happened, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, man, this month is hitting me hard. It is beating me up like I owe it money. That's how bad the pain was and how much I was just used to it. I remember calling out of work, and I really didn't want to call out of work. I was making money, but it was so bad I couldn't walk. And I remember calling my boyfriend at the time because my parents were at the house at their own appointments. And I called my boyfriend being like, I just need somebody to talk to and calm me down and distract my mind from the pain. And he did. The pain was so bad, he had to leave work because, let's just say, I was scream crying on that phone call. Eventually, when my parents got home, they were trying everything to make me feel better. I even slept on the floor that night because I was like, maybe the hard surface will feel good. Spoiler alert, it didn't. I was in so much agony and pain about 24 hours before I told my dad to take me to the hospital. He took me to the emergency room. They immediately put in that morphine. Morphine wasn't taking away the pain. I was bawling my eyes out. They do the ultrasound. Guess what? Ovarian torsion. We had to Google it. My dad Googled it because we looked at each other like,
what's that?
I had no idea that my ovary could do the Macarena. And I had emergency surgery. And that was only the beginning of my whole journey, because after that, nothing was ever the same again. One big pet peeve of mine from this whole experience, I despise doctors and practitioners and nurses who compare your pain level to somebody else's pain level. I despise that with every fiber of my being. When doctors say,
well, your pain must not be that bad because I see other patients who have way worse ovaries than you and they don't even come in pain. We find all of these stuff on their ovaries and they don't even know.
Well, guess what? I'm not other women. I have a very low pain tolerance, okay? I can feel every new thing that happens in my body. And being told basically to suck it up, buttercup, when it came to pain that I was feeling, to the point I couldn't move, and coworkers kind of made fun of me because I walked like an old person who needed a cane. I don't think so. I despise when doctors do that. And I was basically being told, just live with the pain. It's fine. Here's birth control. No, that's like telling someone who has a very life-threatening condition, here's a magic pill that will mask all of the symptoms and everything, and just come back to us when you actually want to address the problem. That's how they treat PMOS or PCOS at the time, was here's birth control. When you want to have kids, come back. I am sorry, but that doesn't get rid of the fact that I'm dealing with all of this. Let's just say there are certain medical professionals that I have had to forgive in my heart because they made me feel less than. They made me feel whatever I was feeling wasn't worthy enough of their attention, and that is just wrong. Now, when I finally got diagnosed with PCOS, it was actually after I got married. I had actually thought I was pregnant, and I kept taking so many tests, and they all said negative. But I had read somewhere that some women can actually have negative tests and still be pregnant, and I swore that was me. I thought that was me. And we finally went to a practitioner who specialized in PCOS, PMOS now. After testing and doing scans and everything they had to do, that's when they diagnosed me. And truly, the best way that I can describe figuring that I had PCOS and learning about that was I felt empty. Like I had lost something, because I had believed so hard that I was pregnant that when they told me, no, you're not pregnant, you just have PCOS or PMOS now, I felt lost. There was like a bunch of emotions going through me of, wow, I finally have an answer to everything. But at the same time, I felt like my body had betrayed me. It's only now that I can say that was a valid emotion at the time. People might think, no, it's, you should be happy you find out. It's a bittersweet thing when you find out you have PCOS. It's bittersweet. Can't be like, yay, I know what's wrong. But at the same time, it's like, oh, there's something wrong. Well, when I found out that I had PCOS, of course, birth control was given. I denied it because I actually wanted to fix the problem. I wanted to get healthier. I wanted to do whatever I had to do with this new diagnosis. Like, don't just give me a Band-Aid but refuse to clean the wound. And they said, well, go on a diabetic diet. Diabetes and PCOS, PMOS, yes, there might be, similarities with insulin and insulin resistance, but that was not gonna fix the problem. I decided to basically take the reins. And I went and got a nutritionist. We started working together, and she actually listened to my needs, to what I was feeling, and we worked together. And honestly, that was the most empowering thing. I'm gonna take control of the situation, and I'm gonna go do what I believe is best for me, not comparing myself to other people's journeys, which are completely valid and great if you don't feel any changes in your body and you have a high pain tolerance. But that's not me, and I'm gonna do what's best for me. Well, when I started working with my nutritionist, I felt great. I did. I felt great. I started losing weight, even though it was a very slow progress because PMOS doesn't really help with losing weight. It was slow, and it was something. I was happy. I started watching my blood sugar. I started training for a 5K. I gave myself a goal. I'm going to run a 5K. Run, jog, probably jog. But I was going to do a 5K. I'd signed up and everything. I was determined. Like, I got all the equipment. I got everything that I thought I needed. I did all the research on how to prepare for a 5K. I was determined. But on the flip side, I became obsessive over fixing the problem so I could be normal. To the point, looking back on it now, I think it hurt my marriage because those were very rough months, a very rough year. I don't think I helped. I got into such tunnel vision that I need to fix the problem. Also hurt how I looked at other women. I looked at other women with anger. I don't know what happened that year, but everyone was getting pregnant. And I remember feeling that emotion of, yay, you're pregnant, how that's great news. And being like, why do you get to get pregnant? Why do you get to have a baby? And I'm here struggling just to have a normal cycle. Why do you get to have it come naturally? And why do I have to struggle with this? I was just angry at other women and I had resentment. There was a lot of questioning why, the big why. It forced me to go into a time of reflection. I had to learn to let it go out of my hands and realize I'm not in control. God's in control. I had to learn to let God be God and me to trust Him. It wasn't easy. There were many days of crying my eyes out, but I slowly learned each and every day. There is a time and a season under heaven, and God is in control of all the seasons. I'm just going to have to go through it, and He will guide me. He will be there for me, but He's in control. The only way that I could slowly learn to let go and accept that I was not in control and that God was in control was by spending time in His Word. That was truly the only way. And eventually I was able to let go and change my mindset, which I think is the most important thing when you have PMOS is your mindset, because it is a mental battle. Yes, there's physical aspects, but it is very much a mental battle. A story I had once heard that there were two farmers and there was a drought and they're both praying to God for rain, but one farmer goes out into the fields to prepare his fields to receive the rain. Which one do you think had more faith? The one who went to prepare his fields while praying for rain and knowing that God was in control of the rain, or the one who did nothing and just kept praying? So eventually my mindset turned into, let me prepare my body to receive the gift God has intended for me when He wants to give it to me. One particular passage of the Bible that I really connected with was actually Hannah in the Bible. It's really about her journey of wanting a baby and finally God giving it to her. And I remember reading that passage over and over and over again and being like, if God could give Hannah a baby, He can bless me with one whenever it's my time. Also connected a lot with her because just like she was given Samuel, I too was given a son. And I eventually got pregnant and I had a few pregnancy complications. Like I got gestational diabetes and then eventually I got high blood pressure towards the end of my pregnancy. Later got induced. I had my son and I am so grateful to God for giving me my son. Yeah, were there hard nights? Oh yes! Were there moments of like, oh my goodness, maybe I prayed a little too hard. God, I wasn't prepared for this. Are you sure I was prepared for this? Girl, you were prepared for this. He wouldn't have given it to you if you weren't prepared. I am just so happy that I can say now that I accept my diagnosis. It's not easy. It's hard. It is frustrating many days, especially struggling with weight gain. It can be frustrating, but again, just leaving everything in God's hands. That was at least the answer for me. And one big lesson that I learned through all of this was PCOS, PMOS. It's not something to fix, to be normal. Instead, we have to learn to adapt to our new body and learn to love the body that God gave us and to learn how to adjust. And I have made a lot of adjustments, from how I eat to how I even exercise, like supplements I take. I have adjusted, and I'm still on the journey of learning to love my body, and especially after having a baby. But I have started to learn to love the body God gave me, because even though there were struggles, there is pain, there were tears, there were frustration, at the end of the day, as you can hear probably in the background, this body carried a human being, and God allowed this body to put life into the world. At the end of the day, I would go through all of the PCOS, PMOS struggles, difficulties. I would go through all the tears again if the result ends in me having my son. So in this talk, what I want you to get from it is trust in God. Everything will turn out. You just have to be patient, which is hard. Being patient is hard, which is why I never pray for patience, because it always ends up finding me. Just trust the process. Enjoy the journey, even though it's going to be frustrating. But you're on this journey, and no, it's not something you have to fix. It's something you have to adapt to. And with that, I hope you liked this video. Please share, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. What other videos and other talks should we have? Talks can be from motherhood to postpartum to if you want more PCOS talk, happy to do so. Hope to see you next time on the A.L.L Talk. Bye.